So Matt, you just told me you save over £5 a year with a pretty small battery. How? Hey everyone, Dan and Matt here from GI Energy today, and we're talking about how to maximize your battery and solar savings after 16 years installing. It's actually probably longer than that, really. I mean, in terms of how long we've been in the industry for, but 16 years with GI, I guess, since inception. So pretty long time. Seen a lot of stuff come and go, a lot of companies come and go, a lot of products come and go. A lot of mistakes being made, I guess, as well with with installers and customers, and not getting the most out of what they're installing, or potentially, what they should be installing and haven't. So this video aims to give you a guide of how to make sure that if you're going to invest in solar and battery, you're going to get the absolute most from it. There's a bunch of different points that we're going to run through. So obviously we're using Matt here as a bit of a case study for a lot of these. I have a battery and solar system installed as well. I'm on a VPP, you're on a different tariff, so there'll be a bit of insight there. But to start with, I guess, sizing accordingly is probably where you would start.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess, whoever you're dealing with when you're looking into adding a brand new solar and battery system, or you potentially have something in place at the moment, is to size it according to your needs. And that might vary seasonally as well. So what we tend to find is you may have a really high consumption in summer and potentially winter, and then maybe quite a modest consumption in that sort of spring, autumn time when you're not using any heating or cooling.
Yes.
We're getting a few more variables now, I suppose, with electric vehicle charging, because that's obviously happening regardless of time of year. Sizing accordingly, and quite often more so now we're looking at that for winter.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do use a fair amount of heating, potentially where you're based as well, that'll come into play.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of sites where the winter consumption actually exceeds the summer consumption, but of course your solar generation may be a third or less than half of what it is in the summer because of the shorter days and the sun angle. So if you're really looking to take care of that time of year there, we really need to look at what winter consumption is as well.
Yeah, definitely. We've done a whole video on how to size correctly, haven't we? So without going into too much detail on that, in a nutshell, what you really want to be doing if you're looking at solar and battery is looking at how you're using energy first, of course. So your average daily use, and then what you will potentially be using with things like electric vehicles, as you said, or whatever it is, if you're adding family members or a swimming pool or anything else.
Yeah.
Looking at what that number is, and then trying to work out what time of the day you're using it. From there, you can build up what's called a load profile and try and figure out what percentage of your energy you're using at different times of the day. And then obviously knowing that your solar energy is going to work really from 9 to 3 is the peak time, isn't it? Or in the summer, 8 to 4 is where it's producing most of its energy. So then trying to figure out how much of it you're going to utilize and how big your battery needs to be.
Yeah.
And then obviously whether you want to get rid of those fixed costs as well, which would mean exporting a fair bit back into the grid, usually under a VPP, in order to get rid of those fixed costs. That, I guess, sums it up.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of clients now looking at electrification of their homes, so vehicles, moving away from gas for hot water, cooking, heating as well. So removing like an old evaporative cooler to a more modern, potentially ducted system. So yeah, a lot of variables there, and just sizing according to those needs. And I guess something we find is we have a lot of clients that will install solar, come back for a battery, but also maybe just increase their usage because they have that in place. Then think, okay, we can, let the shackles off a little bit and use more power. And look, of course, that's what you want to do. And I guess one of those points is like, don't just waste power for no reason. Like, obviously, there's a couple of things we'll touch on here where you can make best use of it. But also, I guess, have that in mind. And that's a conversation we have where we say, look, how much aircon are you using right now? Would you like to use it more?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are saying, yeah, we use it a modest amount, but we'd like to extend that out because ultimately that could add another 10, 15, 20 kilowatt hours a day quite easily. I know it does for me. So if that's what you want to do, that's absolutely fine. Let's look at sizing the system appropriately.
Yeah, and then just understanding that after the install, because if your power bill at the moment is a couple of grand a year, you install a nice solar and battery system, and then you start using twice as much power. That's fine if that's your intention, but just don't expect the bill obviously to be decreased as much as you thought it would from that original number. I know I've had a few over the years where you've gone and installed a great system, and then something's changed in the household, and they don't think they're saving the right amount of money, but when you drill down into it, if you're using more power, you're actually saving more money.
Yes.
It's just not reflected, obviously, as a like for like if you're using more.
Yeah, for sure.
Sounds really basic, but just something to think about in those coming months after the system's installed when you get the first or second power bill.
Yeah.
To make sure that you're able to track what you're saving properly. So you've sized it accordingly. We've thought about future needs, seasons, all that type of stuff. The next thing, obviously, is to choose the right equipment.
Yep. Yeah, so obviously, depending on AC, DC coupling of the battery, the quality product, the amount of panels, and the capacity of the inverter is quite a big one that we're sort of trying to focus on now when we're speaking to people that have had multiple quotes, which is very common. There's no point having a monster battery with a small inverter that then becomes the bottleneck that can't discharge or charge that power in a timely manner that your needs may require. So as an example, if you had, say, a 50 kilowatt hour battery, so maximizing that subsidy, if you did that with a 5 kilowatt inverter, that's 10 hours of charging or discharging. You do it with a 10 kilowatt inverter, that's 5 hours. And obviously incrementally that would adjust. So depending on what your needs are and how quickly you can get power into it, that'll really obviously determine how that works out over time. So yeah, installing correctly. Orientation of the panels is a big one as well now. So if you leave the house at 6 a.m. and you come home at 3, there's no point having all your panels on the east side that are obviously towards the end of their solar day by mid-afternoon.
Yeah.
Load up the west side. If that's when you come home, aircon goes on, you cook, everything else, adjust that accordingly. And that's something that we can obviously look at here. And that may be governed by your roof space and roof angle orientation and a bunch of other things, but at least have that conversation around what your typical habits are. If you work from home, do we look at obviously maximizing the north side and something like that? So yeah, just those little things there that may seem, insignificant on face value are really important. So I guess I've got about 9 kilowatts, just shy of 9 kilowatts on my western roof. And in the summer at 5 o'clock, I'm still generating 5 kilowatts.
Yeah.
So if you've got the aircon on, which we pretty much had it on for 4 or 5 months continuously, at least we can then have the aircon sort of ramp down at that time. And that's something we'll come back to. But yeah, just those sorts of things in terms of orientation.
Yeah, it's really just thinking about the install correctly from
Yes.
all those points that you just made there with your inverter capacity probably being the biggest one at the moment in terms of being a hot topic, because a lot of people are obviously undersizing the inverter in order to save costs.
Yes.
And make themselves look like a really cheap quote, but it's a real false economy.
Yeah.
And then also not just that, but choosing the right equipment in terms of the right manufacturer of the battery, the inverter, and the panels. A lot of people are forgetting about panels now because all the talk is around batteries these days. The panels is almost just a whatever, but you should question that too.
Yeah.
Do your due diligence, make sure that the manufacturer that is supplying those products is going to be around, is providing a good product with a good warranty. And it's probably only, for us anyway, that we would say there's probably only 5, maybe 6 batteries that are worth considering out of the, I don't even know how many are being installed here now, but so many that are just not going to be here.
Yeah.
And that just have real reliability issues. So spending some time with a consultant who's going to design the system correctly in terms of making sure the inverter is the correct size, panels are on the right orientation based on your needs, all of that stuff, and then drilling down into the actual manufacturer of who's doing those. And it sounds like a lot of work, and there is a little bit of time there, isn't there, realistically? I mean, you're investing a lot of money in a solution for your home and building a mini power station for yourself and your family.
Yeah.
You should spend a bit of time with yourself and with the consultant.
I mean, yeah, anything else that you're doing for your home or, purchasing a new car, whatever it is, you generally take the time to do those things.
Definitely.
So yeah, spend that time initially to understand what's being put forward, go away, do your own due diligence on that, and then come back with questions about why or why that was recommended, why this was recommended, why that wasn't, or whatever else. And that's what you want to be asking. And if you're speaking with the right people, they'll welcome questions and feedback, because we want you to understand what you're getting and how to get the most out of it, because then ultimately you're happier with it. And that's obviously just going to be a more pleasant experience for the life of the system.
Definitely. Next one I had on the list was to use energy when it's cheap, and basically make sure that you're using your solar and battery effectively to get the most from it. We said right at the beginning of this video, you're saving a lot of money with a fairly small battery. You're the master of doing this. We were talking about it just before. Probably not everyone's going to go to the same lengths as you do, but you've actually got it down to very little effort as well. So
yeah,
tell us what you do there.
Thanks, mate. I'm not. It's never been described that way, but yeah, I guess the use energy while it's cheap seems pretty obvious, and I don't like to use that word, but that's I mean what people would expect.
Yep.
And it doesn't really take that much time and effort, and like we've got young kids. There's a fair bit going on in there, but like let's talk about some really simple things. So if you're putting on the dishwasher and you leave the house at 8 a.m, put it on a timer so it's 2 or 3 hours later. I'll come back to how to do that with other windows, but just a really simple one. Anything that you can get into that 10 till 2, 9 till 3, 8 till 4 in max summertime, almost certainly is going to come from solar unless it's completely pouring with rain.
Yep.
Your dryer. You've done a load of washing at 6:30 a.m. and it's going to dry for 4 hours. Delay it so it goes 10 till 2. A load of washing that you want to take out when you get home, put it to finish at 4 o'clock or 4:30. You obviously don't want stuff sitting in the washing machine for 4 or 5 hours. That's pretty basic.
Yep.
I don't want that either. So I'll just make sure that happens later in the afternoon, and as much of that can come from solar as well. So I might spend a minute each morning or every other morning just doing those 3 things, and that might be 3 or 4 kilowatt hours quite easily.
Yeah.
So it could be, $1.50, $2 now. So that's just done at that time. Then you're preserving your battery in the evening where you can, and there's obviously washing that you need to do and other bits and pieces, but just that logical stuff that can happen. So that's probably the more basic one that I actually think about doing possibly each day. Hot water is a really common one for a lot of people. That may be on a controlled load tariff initially before solar and a battery is installed, where it's working on a cheaper rate that's controlled by a frequency through the network. So if you have a good solar array and a battery, we put in a timer or a relay, depending on obviously what's suitable based upon the tank and what's in place. And then that just heats through the day.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on the time of year, you could be taking as little as a couple of kilowatt hours up to maybe 10 or 12 if you've got a bigger family, a bigger tank. If that can be isolated in the middle of the day for 2 or 3 hours, again, that's coming from solar every single time in my house.
Yeah.
So something that I'm not paying for. If you've got a pool, run the pool filter. If you need that for 6 hours, 9 till 3. If you need it for 8 hours, 8 till 4. And that's obviously quite an easy set and forget as well. So very, very basic thing. And the hot water and the pool, for a lot of people, it's probably a third or 40% of their power bill.
It can be even more, can't it?
Can be more. You could have a pool heater.
Yeah.
Pool heater, obviously, you can time as well now. So if that can run in the day, so not sort of like maybe the old style matting, but the actual sort of outdoor unit similar to like an outdoor aircon that obviously a more modern pool or a replacement would have. So run those things in the day quite easily. Aircon obviously is a massive one for a lot of people, and again, going to the summer period, that could be half of the consumption.
Yeah.
So you may have like a sort of My Air or that sort of style sort of tablet just on your wall somewhere if the system's maybe 10, 12 years old or less. So on those devices, you can obviously control the zones that are operated, the temperature that you want to have, but the main thing is the timer.
Yeah.
So in the summer, I'll have mine set up to go on about 11 or midday every single day in the summer. Sometimes I'll then turn it off remotely. Maybe even if someone's at home, just turn that off.
Sneakily turn it off without the missus knowing, basically.
Turn that off if my parents are over from the UK, like we pretty much had it running that whole time.
Yeah.
But the point of that is if you can do that and get it to turn on, even if that's with a timer on a little split system.
Yeah.
If you've got the remote and you can just say, look, go on at midday.
Yeah.
By the time you get home at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, whatever it may be, if you turn the aircon on at that time, the house could be 40 degrees. So the aircon is going to immediately ramp up to the highest possible amount of power that's being drawn. And then it's going to take quite a while to settle down, because obviously it's going to take a while for the room to hit that desired temperature.
Yeah.
The earlier you can get it on, the quicker it will get to that lower point. So if it goes on at midday, the house, it could still be 35 degrees at that time. It could be 40 if it's really, really hot. Of course it could. But if you can get that going at midday and it's pulling 5 kilowatts, it can then reach that sort of desired temperature that little bit earlier and then maintain it. The other train of thought that a lot of people say is, and a colleague of ours here worked in the AC industry for about 20 years. He just leaves it on all year. And then it just idles at that sort of 1.5 kilowatts. It's it's not a big ducted system.
Yeah.
It's got like a bedroom and a lounge one. But the way that he was educated through doing it through aircon was, if you can just maintain that temperature constantly there's less fluctuations there.
Yeah.
So if you're turning the aircon on and off all the time, it's obviously going to keep peaking and troughing. There's those ridiculously hot and humid days where it's going to work harder than normal.
Of course, yeah.
But if you can keep it at that sort of average point, especially in January and February, it's going to use less power over time because the room isn't getting hot and cold.
Yeah.
So not everybody would have the tablet, but they probably have the timer to at least do that part. And then you can turn it off earlier as well. So then you're not using as much storage. So that's one that I see as being quite, I guess, a possible outcome that can be achieved now. And then the final one that's been a difference for us in the past couple of years is EV charging.
Oh, yes.
So this will tie into the next point about obviously the retailer, but ultimately if I can charge the car as much as I possibly can when we're home, that's coming from solar, it's then not charging from the battery. So looking at the past 12 months, my average daily usage was about 53 kilowatt hours.
Really?
Yeah.
It's pretty high.
It's really high. So that's about $1,200 a quarter, $1,300 a quarter, depending on the rates. So roughly about $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
And for the whole year, if you take out the government rebates that were paid, so like that sort of $75 quarterly rebate, my bill was about $600.
Okay.
For the whole year.
Plus, you're not buying any petrol.
I hadn't thought of that.
Which is, like, when we realistically, what would you be spending on fuel? Probably $50
I was probably doing,
a week or something?
No, probably more. Probably, it was probably as much as, probably about 75 a week.
75 a week.
So another sort of just over $3,500 a year.
That's quick math. I wasn't going to try and do that. So you're up to about $8,000 a year.
Yeah, and
look, take obviously.
Yeah, and look, I've never included the petrol cost, and I don't normally explain it that way either, because obviously there's generally a difference between purchasing a petrol or diesel vehicle.
That's fair enough.
And an electric.
Yeah, it's not
which
direct.
Wouldn't be a direct thing, but if you're including it, so pretty easily it's around that sort of $4,500. This year I think it's going to be closer to about $5,000.
Yep.
Obviously the price of power has gone up, which has caused that. But the key to all of that for me as well, having solar, an 11 kilowatt hour battery, which by today's standard at the time of filming is quite modest really. It's probably half the size of the average that's going, maybe even less than that.
That was a bit less, I reckon. Probably about 24, aren't you, as average?
24, 25, depending on the battery. But the key for me, which is obviously different from the way you do it, is actually using a time of use based retailer.
Yeah.
The reason for that is I have a smaller battery. If I had a larger battery, I'd probably look at the VPP style.
Yeah.
But the benefit of having the time of use battery for me is between 11 and 2, and there's many retailers that do this now. I can ensure that the battery is fully charged regardless if it's pouring down with rain or perfect sun and it's already full. I can charge my battery in that 11 till 2 window. But then what I do is I line up those other things I've mentioned before, the hot water, the pool, the aircon, everything runs at that time.
Yeah.
And if I'm at home on the weekend or working from home for a day, I'll plug in my car and have it complete maxed out at that time as high as it can be, obviously within the limit of what it can do. So at that time I could be pulling 10, 12 kilowatts per hour. So 30, 35. I think the most I ever did was about 42 kilowatt hours in 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's about $12.
That's why I said you're the master of this stuff.
Yeah.
We call it something else in the office, don't we? We call it being a titan.
Yeah. That's probably fair. But at the same time, if you can do it that way,
why wouldn't you?
You can ensure the battery's charged every single day, regardless of what's going on, what you're using as well.
Yeah.
So even if your 15 kilowatt solar system is generating 15 kilowatts at that time, you could still be using 20.
Yeah.
And you're not paying for that power.
Absolutely.
So that's the way it works for me with a modest sized battery. Obviously with yourself, you've got a battery that's 2.5, nearly 3 times as big with a VPP.
Yeah.
And that suits that size battery. And that would then be a conversation I'd have depending on these other things we've talked about before as to which one may be more beneficial. But obviously for yourself with a VPP, it
it's a
works
bit
pretty
different.
well. Yeah.
So the VPP works a bit differently. There's other videos on that as well. But in a nutshell, a VPP basically allows you to join a network of other battery owners. Collectively, there's a lot of storage there. That collection can trade energy with the grid, and there's incentives to do that. So you can charge and discharge your battery at times where it's most valuable.
Yeah.
So for me, I've done obviously the same thing as you have in terms of concentrating as much of my energy into that window of time where energy is very cheap.
Yeah.
It's not a strictly free time window like yours. It's basically dependent on what the wholesale rate of power is. So if the wholesale rate of power is cheap, which it is typically from
Yeah.
about 7 o'clock in the morning all the way through till 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It can even be free.
Yeah.
It can be negative.
Yeah.
You actually get paid to take money from the grid with a VPP. So I do the same as you do and concentrate it into that window as much as possible, to the point where I've actually got a very small pool heated for free.
Yeah.
And that was costing, I worked out at one stage, if I wanted to heat that, it was going to cost about $1,000 a quarter.
Wow.
Just to heat just for that appliance.
Just to keep it at that, yeah.
Just to keep it, and that's at that because it's very small.
Yeah.
It's heated to it sits at around 34.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's kind of like, we've got very small kids.
Yeah.
And it's obviously quite chilly outside at some times during different times of the year. You can go in it whenever.
Yeah.
It's costing nothing.
Yeah, it's great.
I'll say nothing. I should be honest there. There's times where if it's very cloudy and there's not much solar energy collectively being exported into the grid, it's not free. It then can be as much as 13 cents a kilowatt hour. That might be twice a month. And again, 13 cents a kilowatt hour is still way less than half the price you would be paying for a normal kilowatt hour with a normal retailer. So I do all of that stuff that you do, concentrate it all into their time, the aircom, and then the other difference is that you can then export energy back into the grid at a really high rate in the evening. So from 4:30 on and off, right up through till sometimes even 11 p.m. at night, depending on what the grid is doing, you can get anything from 20, 30, 50, $1 a kilowatt hour to sell it back. So I'm storing energy during the day and I'm using energy during the day at zero because I've got solar or free grid power or very cheap grid power. And I'm selling it back to the grid in the evening for a lot more.
Yeah.
That's the big difference. So for you to be saving what you are, even without the petrol cost, with that size battery, is phenomenal. It really is. I mean, if you compare that to, let's say someone else goes and buys a 10 kilowatt hour battery or a 9 kilowatt hour battery, same size solar system, and just lets it run.
Yeah.
The savings are drastically different.
Yeah.
Probably less than half.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is not, as you said, there's a lot of stuff in this video that sounds complex. It takes you a minute in the morning. The pool and the hot water are the two main ones. That's set and forget.
Yeah.
And that's probably 70% of it. And then obviously going on to the correct tariff is where you really make that money.
Yeah, correct.
So installing solar and batteries is great, but maximizing your savings is this cuts your return on investment, your payback period in half or more.
Yeah, easily. And it's the way that mine works, I still have the supply charge that isn't covered off. So that might be $1.20, $1.30, but having that smaller battery, the time of use style retailer is far more beneficial for me personally, because if I had the VPP style, I'd likely export that power by say 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Then I'd be purchasing power at a higher rate.
Exactly.
So it's that trade-off there. Whereas if you've got a larger battery where you've probably got 10 to 15 kilowatt hours to play with, depending on the time of year and what you're doing, you're almost certainly going to be better off in that sense. But again, that would come down to how you can do those other things. So if you've got, and the EV would, if you had an EV, that would probably change again at your place, I would say.
Yeah, depending. I mean, I could do my best to charge it during the daytime on the weekends, and it would change the dynamic.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. The reason I mentioned that, just like I guess in summary, is every house is different.
Yes.
Everyone uses power differently.
Comes back to that consultation again.
Yeah, and what you want to do, and like as I said, a lot of those things may sound, I've got to, put a timer on. I'm at the dishwasher anyway. I'm either putting it on at 7 or I'm pressing a button 4 times.
It makes no difference, does it?
No. Or you throw some stuff in the, and look, I get home sometimes, something might not be dried properly. I'll chuck it back in the dryer. That carries on.
How dare you?
I'm not doing things at night, and we love the aircon.
Yeah.
But I just know that if I can cover off 95% without really doing too much.
Exactly.
That's a great outcome, and that's what we look to design, and that's what we look to try and understand to make sure if this is what you want to achieve, let's go through it, and let's go through it a month after the system's in, when we can see your data then.
Yes.
So we can see how you've been using power, and then if we can make some quite small adjustments potentially, just to say, look, you're coming home at 4 and turning the aircon on. Let's turn the aircon on at 12. There's no point feeding that power into the grid for nothing anyway.
Exactly.
It's like, as you mentioned before, the way that the VPPs work, it's very cheap, but that sort of smaller window, maybe 10 till 3, is quite often negative.
Yes.
Or at least you might get a cent for it, let's just say per kilowatt hour. So you might have made 20 cents for that power, or you've pre-cooled your home for nothing.
Save you dollars.
Your house is cool. You're not coming home and then waiting for it to cool down, and then it's also just, it's just eased off, and it's just running at 2 kilowatts per hour rather than 4 or 5.
Exactly.
So there's a great way to do it, and there's so many variables there.
The only other thing that we talk about a lot is basically how to just ruin all this. In Australia, there's massive rebates, great weather. Installing solar energy is so cost effective compared to England, where we've both lived, compared to America, where I've done a little bit of work with solar with other people, compared to New Zealand, where we do a lot of stuff with people there. It's the best in the world, as far as we're aware. So you don't have to cut corners, but yet the industry over the years, probably because of government rebates, has attracted the type of overall company that just focuses on cutting costs.
Sort of self-sabotages the industry.
100% of that, and it's just got worse over the years. There's it seems like it's a low barrier to entry, so loads of people think they can come into solar and take advantage of the rebate hype and make a lot of money really quickly, then potentially disappear. And it's that mindset of just, how do we get the most customers? Well, let's just make it as cheap as we can. So let's make the install as cheap as we can. Let's do, AC coupled batteries everywhere, so we can just come and put it in and leave and not worry about updating stuff. Let's find the cheapest installers, the cheapest batteries, and let's put a load of Facebook ads out and do loads of volume. And that's really damaging. So for a consumer, this is where you can mess it up. If you get a really good quality battery and solar panel and inverter installed by a really good company, you're going to get all of these savings. If you try and go too cheap, you're going to end up buying twice. We've seen it so many times, and we get so many phone calls here. We've got to rip systems off roofs that shouldn't be coming down because they haven't been installed correctly. Company's gone out of business, they can't find anyone. It's almost a daily occurrence. So that's the one area here where you can mess all of this up. Just do it properly, do it once, do your due diligence, do it with someone that's capable and you're comfortable with, and this is what you'll see the results for.
And you'll have, I guess you'll have someone to talk about this with as well.
Yeah.
Because if it's been done for nothing, no one's going to spend the time of going through all that stuff with you.
No.
Never.
Not at all.
So, I think you've echoed it perfectly.
If you are watching this because you're looking into a solar and battery system, we do have a battery guide that we're going to put in the description of all the videos. If you click on the link, it's totally free, quite a good resource, I think. So please feel free to download that, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.